our government would be much smaller. Much smaller. Now, hear me out. We have been and before you jump to conclusions, listen to carefully. We have been in a civil war for 13 years. Did you hear that? We have been at a civil war for 13 years. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. We have two parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, that in previous years they were able to work together and be able to do things and accomplish things for this country that were positive and great things. They don't do that anymore. If the Republicans want something done, the Democrats will do everything they can to keep it from happening. If the Democrats want something done, the Republicans will do everything they can to keep it from happening. So that dividing line has been there for the last 13 years. They don't want the two sides to get along. They want that division because then they say, oh, well, whichever one of us can get the most behind us, we're going to win the election. It's become about elections and power now. It's not about color of skin. It's not about for rich or for poor. In fact, let me make this simple. Anybody that believes the Democratic Party is on your side, I don't know of any party that wants you to rely on the government for so many things and can call themselves for the people. I personally think you would want to prosper yourself. You would want opportunity to prosper yourself, not for things to be handed to you. Now, that's just me, from my side of things. I had to work to get what I have. I didn't want the government to hand me anything. It seems like one party wants you reliant on the government. The other party seems like, and I'm going to be honest with you, you got the Republicans out there who seem like they're all for the rich. And it seems that way. But here's the reality. If someone's pushing me to better myself, I want to support that person over somebody that wants me to rely on a system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree and disagree. And I'll tell you, this is my point of view on this. My views are conservative. But the issue I have with the political system in America is this. You have 35% of the population that's Democratic. Another 35% that's Republican. So you got far left and far right. And then another 30% that's independent or green or whatever.
Libertarian,
whatever you want to call them. The issue that I have here is someone like Colin Powell will vote. He said he'll vote for Joe Biden. You've had Democrats that voted for. I have a client in Lawrenceville, Virginia. If you met this guy, he's one of the nicest guy in the world. He's into Indy 500 cars, and if you saw him, you'd think Steve he's a redneck. But this guy's when I first met him, I thought he was, but he's one of the nicest guy in the world. And we can talk that way because we have a relationship. And he said to me, "I'm a Republican, but I voted for Barack Obama." And then he said he voted for Trump. So my point I'm trying to make here is simply this. The current president of the United States, I don't support him. I pray for him daily as a Christian because he's the leader and you have to respect the office. There are some people, and I tell this to a lot of liberal Democrats all the time. I tell them this. When Barack Obama was president, you said, well, my president. You say Trump is not your president. Well, there was some conservative, far-right Republicans that said the same thing. Barack Obama was not their president, but Trump is their president. So my point is simply this. So you can only vote based on what your party does? No. You have to vote on what are the issues. What do you think is important to you? Is it, abortion rights? Is it, I don't know, whatever your rights are. Today I was reading that, they're trying to, the Justice Department, I think, is filing suit to block John Bolton's book. I couldn't stand John Bolton. And the reason I couldn't stand was his mustache. I can't stand his mustache. But the funny thing about it is he's writing a lot of stuff now. And I'm saying, wow. Some of the stuff he's writing that I read in the Washington Post today, I already knew that. I didn't need him to tell me that. But the funny thing is he mad at Trump? Or is it true? Some people may say it's true. Some of the stuff that he's saying is probably true. The current guy that we have in the White House right now, President Trump, I don't support his policies. I don't support his decisiveness. And he's not for the average man. I don't care what anybody says. However, as the President of the United States of America, I pray for him. I pray for him at our prayer meeting. I pray for him in my personal devotion. And the funny thing is this, I don't think you cannot just vote Republican or Democrat sometimes. Sometimes you have to vote the person. I think John Kasich should have been President of the United States. But that's, what do I know, right?
I think Steve Bryant should have been, personally. But that's just... Steve Bryant for president.
I wasn't born here, so I couldn't be. Well, I'll vote for you, Steve.
Yeah, Bryant for president, 2020.
But you know what, Steve? The important thing is simply this. Regardless of what your views are, guys, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, stay true to what's important to you, but also stay true to social injustice. Stay true for bettering yourselves. Stay true for the things that's going to benefit everyone. Some people vote Republican because their mother was and their grandfather and some people vote Democrat. It's the same thing. My mother, who's dead, I would always vote Democrat because back in the day, President Kennedy sent, like dry milk to the Caribbean, So you don't vote that way, and you don't vote for someone because they're black or they're white. You vote for them based on on what they're saying and what their stance and their views are. But the important thing is this, folks. Regardless of what you do, you gotta vote. You don't like who's there? Vote them out.
And again, now this is where, again,
we disagree.
Terrence and I disagree.
Right.
I do support Trump. Now, do I like Trump? Let me explain this. As a person, I think he's a moron, okay? But as a president of the United States, I do appreciate what he's done and what he's done for our nation, the way he's brought the economy back. We had the strongest economy that we've had as far as unemployment. It's the lowest unemployment that there's been in over 50 years until this COVID happened to pop up on an election year. I do appreciate what he's done. Do I like the way he speaks? Do I like his tweets? Sometimes I think he makes himself look ignorant. And I didn't say stupid. I said he makes himself look ignorant. Those are the things that really bother me about our current president. But I do support the things that he's done as far as our economy goes, and what he's done for the unemployment rate and decreasing the unemployment rate. Now everybody's going to go, but the unemployment rate now doesn't matter what the unemployment rate now because this COVID thing had nothing to do with the president of the United States. So I want to make that clear. So I saw you writing there.
I wrote a couple of things, and this is where again. I can respectfully disagree with Steve again, and I can prove it. If 2008, 2009, when we had the meltdown, was George Bush's fault, if it was, what's happening now is not Trump's trophies. Think about it, and I want to make this very clear. My friends who know me here in the greater Richmond area and some of the guys I hanged out with, they knew that I was pulling for John McCain and even Romney, But the funny thing is this, folks. I don't believe the President of the United States of America is intelligent. I don't believe it. He doesn't sound intelligent. He doesn't make any statements that's intelligent. John Bolton himself today, go read it for yourself in the Washington Post. Says some of the stuff that he says embarrasses him. He doesn't know anything that he's supposed to know. However, George W. Bush, not the papa who said no new taxes and lied, the son, he wasn't a brilliant guy, but he was surrounded by brilliant people. He had Condoleezza Rice, he had Colin Powell, he had Karl Rove, who he had. A whole bunch of people helping him. And he listened. One thing I will never forget, I'm going to look to people watching on my Facebook Live right here. 911, I will never forget. When, was it Andy Card who came and whispered into George Bush's ear about the towers? He was at a school in Florida. You know what he did? He continued, and I'll look into Steve's live. He continued reading to the kids. You know why? It was presidential. You know why he did that? Because he cannot panic. As when you're the chief executive and you're in charge, man, you gotta be calm. The man did what he had to do, continued the story, probably minimized it, and then they had to move him and put him into bunkers. I don't feel that way about this guy. They were protesting in D.C. This guy was in a bunker. So I don't respect him. He was a draft dodger, and stuff like that bothers me. So he's not the president that everybody acts like you think he is. And I'm not bashing him. I'm just making a point. However, he's the president of the United States of America, and you got to respect that.
Now, this is where I disagree with him again. If you want to go by the way somebody sounds as well as their intelligence, Einstein, they believed, was special needs. Albert Einstein, who was one of the most intelligent men on this planet, they believed he was special needs based on the way he spoke and the things that he did. So to sit there and say that because someone doesn't speak intelligently doesn't make them intelligent, I totally disagree with that, because as a businessman, he's made a lot of smart decisions, and I think he's made a lot of smart decisions as president. So
but equally,
I'm not gonna,
a lot of bankruptcies too. So you got to put that in.
But keep in mind, bankruptcies are part of business, and sometimes bankruptcy is not a bad thing in business. And people want to sit there, oh, he bankrupted his business. You know what? That was a business decision. Sometimes decisions have to be made in business, and that doesn't make him a poor businessman. It made him an intelligent businessman to have to do it at that time. So you can't sit there and say, oh, he bankrupted. Bankrupt sometimes is the intelligent thing to do. You can't just sit there and say, oh, well, he failed.
Times?
Of course. Look at Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney bought up businesses and folded them up. That's what he did for a living.
No.
Don't go there. Don't go.
No, Mitt Romney was a capital ventures. What
Mitt Romney was buying businesses and then was closing them up and filing bankruptcy. He made money on this deal. So sometimes in business, filing bankruptcy is not a bad thing. So I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to say.
No. That's okay. It's healthy. It's a healthy discussion.
Sometimes bankruptcy is a good thing sometime in business. So that's where we're going to disagree on the president.
And that's fine. We can disagree about that. Listen, Steve.
As far as the bunker goes, the D.C. Police Department refused to even help the federal police at the White House. So, yes, he went into a bunker because you basically had CIA and special police and all these people out there defending the property at the White House. D.C. Police Department refused to come out there. The mayor in D.C. refused to let D.C. police to come out there. So, yes, did he go in there for his safety? Yes, based on what he was told by his Secret Service, okay? Now, and you say that's a coward. Well, I have to disagree, because here's the way I see it. If he had called in the Army, or he had called in the Marine Corps, the first thing the left would have said was, "Oh my God, he's Adolf Hitler. He's called in federal troops against the American people," and that's what the left wants. The left wants President Trump to do that so they can say, "Oh, he's like Hitler." And here's the true story. And I'm going to tell you, if you want to talk about Hitler, and we want to talk about the way things really look, let's look at Seattle. Let's look at Richmond. Seattle right now, you've got a group that calls their little area of the world CHOP. By the way, that's their country that is surrounded by Seattle. CHOP, which, oh, by the way, they're now all fully armed. I wonder where those weapons came from. So here you are. You've got this little country inside Seattle called CHOP. Well, what happens if the federal government steps in, if the president steps in and says, hey, you know what? We're going to send troops in there. Then they're going to go, oh, my God, he's like Hitler. They killed innocent American people and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the true story. If you know anything about Nazi history, think about the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. The brown shirts of Nazi Germany are doing exactly what they're doing in Seattle right now and what they're trying to do in Richmond. That's the way the Nazis took over Germany. Now, think about that. Go back and research it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go look. Bottom line is they're acting just like the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. So if the federal government, if Trump steps in and sends troops, all the left is going to go, oh my God, look what he's doing. But you got governors and mayors of these cities in liberal cities that have the highest crime rates in the world. I mean, look at Chicago. Everything there is run by the left. And they have the highest crime rate, the highest death rate in the whole United States. And they also have the strongest gun laws. So my point to this is, if you want to look at things, look at who's running these cities and these states. And when you look at and see it's the liberal states that are having all these issues, how can you blame the right or the president? He's not running that state. You are.
I understand what you're saying. I want to clarify two things for you. when Mitt Romney was running Bain Capital, I lived in Massachusetts, and as a venture capitalist, when he was governor of Massachusetts with universal health care, he was the governor.